Today's jargon term is errorless learning. What you talking about? What on earth could this be? But this, my friends, is the beginning of all things good right here. So let's take a look at our actual definition. Errorless learning is an instructional design introduced by psychologist B.F. Skinner in the 1930s as part of his studies on what would make the most effective learning environment. Skinner said errors are not necessary for learning to occur. All right, I'm a former teacher, so, this is a very interesting concept, right? But when we put it in motion, we see that not only is it interesting, it's miraculous. Okay, so what's our working definition? Errorless learning is teaching procedures that are specifically designed so that the learner does not have to and does not make mistakes as they learn new information. Okay, so let's take in point of fact our kids who are on the autism spectrum, and I'll reference my son who, for a period of time, my son was learning and gaining new skills, and that was all wonderful until it stopped. And then my son became like a dry erase board. We would try to teach him something, and the next day it would go away. And then if we wanted to learn something new that was totally new that had never been introduced before, it was just an exercise in frustration is what it was. And then we learned about errorless learning, which is one of the first tools that you can use when working on something in an applied behavior analysis fashion. So if I want to teach a child, for instance, that this is a pen, and I'm going to teach that this is a pen in many different ways. I'm going to teach it receptively so that when I say to the person, hand me the pen, that they know that this is what I'm talking about. But I'm going to teach it expressively so that when I say, what is it? They say, it's a pen. Whether they're saying it vocally or they're saying it with sign or with a picture exchange communication, right? And then later on, I'm going to teach them what the functions of a pen are, what the features of a pen are, so that they fully understand what a pen is, right? But I got to start somewhere. You got to start to get overwhelmed going, oh my gosh, I didn't realize there were so many different aspects to a pen. I want to go home, I want to go to bed, right? It seems very tiring. So how do I begin to teach this? Well, we might start with the receptive of, saying to them, touch the pen, right? So that we know that when we say pen that they know what it is. But I'm not going to lay a glue stick down and go touch the pen to start. I'm going to do that later on. In the beginning, I'm going to start with errorless learning. So I take the pen and I put it down on the table and I say to my child on the autism spectrum, touch the pen. There's only one thing to touch. But in the beginning, you might say to yourself, well, they don't even know what touch means, so we got to start from scratch. So I might say, touch the pen, and then I might take and do a full prompt. I take the child's hand, and I put it on the pen, and then I go crazy the first time, and I go, yay, good, that's touching the pen, and I might tickle the child, yay. Was there any possibility that the child could have gotten it wrong? No. That's errorless learning. And what we see is that it lays the groundwork, and the child doesn't have any idea what's going on in the beginning. To them, it's wah, 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 right? They're not understanding what the words are that I'm saying. But what they do understand is that when they do this, after I say wah, 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 that yay! And they get something that's meaningful to them, whether that's a tickle or a hug, or for a child, it might be something that's edible, right? And then from there, I can continue doing this, and I'm going to fade back my prompt first so that eventually I say, touch the pen, and the child does it all on their own. And yay, everything is wonderful. Okay, and then we'll talk later on in the week about what the next phase is, but this errorless learning. Now think about how simple it is with a pen. What are you trying to learn in your life, or what are you trying to teach somebody in your life? Maybe it's much more complicated than that. Maybe you're trying to teach somebody how to drive, and you think, well, how can I use errorless learning when driving? People do it all the time. They do it when they teach at a simulator where there's no possibility that they can get it wrong and crash the car. And they take it apart into increments, so they just teach one part of it at a time so that you can't get it wrong. You can do this with knitting. You can do this with cliff diving. You can, right? It's taking and removing any possibility that you could mess it up and working on all the skills and then slowly putting them together so that there is success to be had. At some point, there's an option to make a mistake, but not in the beginning. It's just one little step in the beginning, and that, my friends, is errorless learning. It's a great teaching technique for early on teaching a skill.